Welcome to the Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 Garrison Board of Education regular meeting. We're going to go ahead and call this to order again. Dusty, is that correct? Good. Could you read the roll, please?
Jocelyn Appicello. Here. David Gilbert.
Here.
Madeline Julian. Here. Courtney McCarthy.
Excused.
Ken Schott.
Here.
Matthew Spicer.
Here.
Sarah Tormey.
Here. Great. Next, we will move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Okay, we have done the executive session portion. Next up, we have approve agenda changes. I have two recommended changes for this evening's agenda. The first, and Dusty, I'm going to need you to walk me through this. I would like to pull from the personnel consent agenda, item C, instructional appointment, special education, AIS teacher, up to right after they accept the agenda changes.
So before President's remarks.
If that's possible, seeing as she's been so patient.
No problem.
And may wish to celebrate. And then I would also like to propose adding committee reports under board communications as letter C. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and then, anyone else have any recommended changes? Okay? I'm going to read the recommended action then. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the board agenda for the August 25th, 2021 meeting as amended. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. Great. So now I am going to jump ahead to personnel item C, instructional appointment for our special education AIS teacher. Okay, I'm going to read the recommended action and then I'll turn it over to you, Carl. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of Carl L. Albano, Superintendent, hereby appoints Natalie Beglin, thank you, to a 4-year probationary appointment as a special education AIS teacher in the tenure area of special education, commencing September 2nd, 2021, and ending September 1st, 2025, at an annual salary of $86,835 MA plus 3 step 6 for the 2021-2022 school year. May I have a motion, please? Thank you. All right, Carl.
Okay, just to give you a little background, Natalie Beglin has 15 plus years of experience teaching in the New York City public schools. She's worked in grades 1 through 5 in various assignments. She has a bachelor's degree in communication disorders and sciences from the University of New York at Plattsburgh. Also, she has a master's of science in childhood education from the State University of New York at Potsdam, and a master's in science in special education and literacy from the State University of Albany. She possesses her New York State Speech and Hearing Handicap Permanent Certificate, Literacy Birth through 6 Professional Certificate, Students with Disabilities Grades 1 through 6 Professional Certificate, and her Childhood Education Professional Certificate. Natalie went through a very rigorous process. It was competitive. There were screening interviews, there were committee interviews, there were demonstration lessons, and final round of interviews. And she really emerged as the clear choice for the Garrison School. Her experience lines up perfectly. Her various certifications will enable her to perform a variety of roles. And in a small school like Garrison, it is always helpful to have teachers with multiple certifications. So with all of that, I recommend her with confidence to the Board of Education to begin working with us on September 2nd for the upcoming school year.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have any questions from the board? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. Congratulations, Natalie, and welcome to us.
I'm smiling so big out of my mouth.
We're very excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm so proud to get to tell people that I am joining this district. And I look forward to meeting the kids and getting started.
Great.
And hope that we have a good and semi-normal year. So thank you, everybody. It was so great to be here. So nice to see everybody.
Sort of see everybody.
Welcome. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you
Excited.
so much.
Yeah,
Sure.
You're very welcome. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you wish to go out and celebrate. I know you just moved to the area. There's lots of great restaurants to
We are mid-move
explore.
right now, so yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right,
You're welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
enjoy.
Have a good night.
Good luck the rest of the month.
Okay. Yes, of course. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next item on the agenda, which is President's Remarks. I will be brief. I want to thank everyone for their hard work over the summer. This thanks goes out to our administrative team, our construction crews, the facilities group who has worked so hard to get this building open. We're very excited to welcome staff for Superintendent's Conference Days, welcome students back. On the 9th, we will be ready. School will look a little different. Carl will address that. We are still following COVID protocols and guidelines. But we're excited to have everyone back, and I think we're going to be ready. It's going to be a good year. I'm feeling very positive. For the board, I do want to just remind everyone that we have a joint retreat with Haldane scheduled for Saturday the 25th. That was part of what we discussed with the Anti-Racism Task Force, and we'll be bringing April Francis back, and we'll be joining Haldane. So just want to keep that on your radar, and I'll mention it again next week as well. Okay, I'm going to stop there and turn it over to Carl, who's going to give us an overview of the reopening plan and COVID safety protocols.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. I'm going to move rather quickly, and I've made similar presentations to our K through 5 parents as well as our middle school parents, but this is for the board and the entire community, and of course it'll be posted for everyone to review and if they're interested in these details. So Dusty, can you move to that first slide? So, sorry, I forgot. Okay. So first, our reopening plan is based on the guidance from CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, Putnam County Department of Health, and New York State Education Department. I emphasize that this is guidance. Those agencies have no real authority over school districts. The only governing authority is the New York State Department of Health at this time. We have heard from Governor Hochul, who was sworn in just on Tuesday, I believe, that she will make a strong push for universal mask wearing in schools and also for COVID vaccine or test mandates for employees, meaning that employees will either need to show their proof of vaccination or submit to regular testing, for example, maybe on a weekly basis. The governor doesn't have the authority to mandate it, but the Department of Health may do this at some time in the near future. Also, we reconvened our reopening task force. On that task force, we have representation from parents, teachers, support staff, board members, administrators. There were a few local decisions that we wanted to make that were unique to Garrison. So we met on August 19th and reached consensus on several things that pertain to our school, and I'll go through them. Dusty, the next slide, thank you. First, we will continue to promote vaccination. We really believe that is probably the most important thing that we can do as a school district. Putnam County is at about 60% fully vaccinated, 67% first dose. So that is well above the national average still, but we do hope to see that number go higher. Matt?
Does that include people under 12?
I believe it's 18 and older.
I mean, that number, though, that percentage, that's just the percentage of 18 and older. So, so it's not an artificially low percentage, it's an actual percentage.
Yes, yes.
Carl, how many kids, 12-year-old kids are not vaccinated?
David, we don't know. We haven't required that information or requested it yet. We have an idea that it's about 50%, but I don't have an exact count for you. So out of our eligible students, we believe it's about 50%.
Parents have been asked to volunteer the information to Nurse Melissa
Yes.
once they have.
So I'll circle back to you. Nurse Melissa will be collecting that as we go into the school year. I do know a number of families did have their child vaccinated over the summer. So we'll get updated information there. The next bullet is universal mask wearing in school and on school buses. That will be a requirement, no exceptions. Also, 3 feet of physical distance in classrooms. This is where we left off at the end of the year, and we will continue to maintain that in every classroom. Also, student cohorting as much as possible. That means just keeping the same group of children together throughout the day as much as possible. There may be some times where 2 classes come together, but not mixing, for example, 3 or 4 different sections of classes. That will not occur. Also, we will be able to offer or continue offering voluntary COVID surveillance testing. We use a Bionex rapid antigen test. We have an ample supply right now to start out the school year. We also have a partnership with the local Department of Health that received grant money that will have plenty of testing available for us throughout the year. On that note, for the older children that are participating in sports, we really are going to recommend that they take advantage of. Melissa will make herself available at any time, before school, after school. She even offered weekends by appointment. Next slide, we will maintain well-ventilated classrooms. We did this last year. We actually had to make some window repairs, but every single window in this building opens to provide fresh air. We also upgraded our univents with MERV 13 filters, so that will be maintained all year, and those filters will be changed as much as possible. Proper hand washing routines and respiratory etiquette. Nurse Melissa is great with this. She constantly is reminding and teaching and working with our students what is proper hand washing, and also if you cough, if you sneeze, in your elbow, use a tissue to cover your face, not so you can spread to your classmates. Staying home when sick and getting tested is key. We will continue to remind our families. I think they've been really good about this. But more than ever, if there are symptoms, if you have any concern, when in doubt, you should keep your child home, and we'll do our best to make sure the child doesn't miss out on learning by providing instruction. Yes, Matt?
Can there be any wiggle room on attendance records for days that traditionally people might have sent their kid in with like the sniffles, so that people don't have more missed days on their record and so they don't feel that pressure? Or is that do we not have really wiggle room with that?
It's a state requirement to report absences.
Mm-hmm.
So we really don't have wiggle room, and we don't have a formal remote option, Matt. So it would be an excused absence, okay? But we could not report the absence. Question? No? Okay. I'm sorry. The next one is contact tracing in combination with isolation and quarantine. I mean, this occurred all last year. You may recall earlier in the year, we were quarantining entire classes. We've learned much more about the virus and how it spreads, and those quarantines were much more limited to students in close proximity to one another to minimize that quarantine, and that is something that's always evolving. So with the Delta variant, for example, that may change, and we're prepared for that, but right now, it would only be children within close proximity of another child. Routine cleaning and disinfecting, all high-touch surface areas, doorknobs, desktops. We are continually cleaning. We actually have a contract tonight to supplement the cleaning with the cleaning company. That will continue as it did throughout last year. The next slide is a change, and this was something that the reopening task force, I asked them to consider and reach consensus on, and they did. The CDC is no longer recommending the health screening, daily screener questionnaires that we were all doing, staff and students alike. So the Garrison School, we're deciding to discontinue that. We don't really think the value is there. After we collect all that every morning, Nurse Melissa has a good hour of just, organizing that data and filing it away. And her time really could be better spent monitoring our children, going around class to class, having conversations with parents. She does that anyway, but I think to free her up, not to have free time, but to even do more of what we believe is effective is a smart thing to do. And we also will do continual reminders to parents about, being proactive, whether that's an informal conversation or a notice with our weekly bulletins, but to keep your children home. When in doubt, please, err on the side of caution. The next slide, this I think is pretty well known, but New York State is no longer requiring districts that are open full-time to have a remote model. Garrison and nearly every district that I know has done away with that remote option. So, for example, the iTutor model that we offered last year will no longer run. The next slide, but a lot of parents said, well, gee, but what if my child's quarantined? What if my child is sick? What will happen? So what we plan to do is offer, if it's the entire class, which right now is unlikely, the quarantine rules make it unlikely that we would have to do that. But if it was an entire class, then we would offer remote teaching for that entire class and the teacher would teach remotely. But if it was 2 or 3 students that needed to quarantine, we have 2 permanent subs who are fully certified teachers. They would collect all of the lesson plans from the teacher, and they would offer 2 hours of remote instruction for the children who are at home. There will be 2 hours a day for every day that they're home. The state requires 2 hours a day for grades 6 through 12, 1 hour for kindergarten through grade 5, but we would like to offer 2 hours to all of our children. And we think that is very doable. As a backup, we do have an open contract with iTutor if things really got worse, but we really think we can do it internally and would not need iTutor. The next slide speaks to just our commitment to getting outdoors as much as possible. Lunch, recess, instruction. I can tell you all of the special areas, phys ed, art, music, they all plan to be outdoors. Our new environmental education teacher is diligently planning outdoor units of study, outdoor projects. So that will happen. The committee also, we really asked the teachers. We made an investment in tents last year. Was it a valuable investment? The teachers unanimously said yes. So we're adding 3 tents, one near the garden. We have a gardening program for the primary grades, Land to Learn. It's very sunny out there, so we're going to place a tent out there. Another one adjacent to the pavilion. We have Wi-Fi access there, and that worked out well. And then both courtyards will have tents as well. The courtyards did get a lot of use last year. The next slide, just briefly to talk about athletics. We offer modified sports, and we have some mergers with Haldane. Basically, parents were concerned about this. The same rules that apply to phys ed apply to sports. So basically, outdoor soccer, children will not be required to wear masks, and spectators and parents that are there, we will recommend and remind to be safe distance, but families could be together, and you do not need to be masked outdoors. It's optional. Indoor sports, however, if we're fortunate enough to run indoor sports in the winter, basketball, for example, students, athletes will be masked, and parent spectators, if they come to watch their children, will need to wear a mask. That is the plan now. Of course, 2 or 3 months from now, things can change one way or the other. The next slide just speaks to social emotional well-being, which will always be a high priority, even a priority over academics. We have great programs in place. We have 2 full-time counselors, 1 guidance, 1 psychologist. They will be working with our students on managing stress. Krista DiDiego has been relieved of her health classes. Mr. Beckley is picking up health, and she will be delivering SEL instruction and guidance instruction to all of our classes, along with Jessica Van Decker. And there'll be a multi-tiered system of support. Basically, this is RTI. If we do notice that a child is struggling with anxiety or stress, there will be a team approach, and we have a lot of strategies that we can implement on a case-by-case basis partnering, of course, with the parents and involving them every step of the way. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know some of our board members have heard it at least twice now. Jocelyn?
I've got two. One is, I noticed that Nurse Melissa had a survey about testing, the rapid antigen testing, and I think that it may have gotten lost.
You can pass the mic, yes.
Thank you so much.
All right, is this working? Okay, so I noticed Nurse Melissa sent out a survey about antigen testing for the students and staff, but I think it may have gotten buried, and I want to make sure parents know that this is something she's willing to do every single Monday morning, and make sure that we understand that this kind of regular testing is important for understanding how the virus moves around the community. So is there any way to maybe get that survey back out on its own, rather than buried in the newsletter?
Agreed.
And my second question is about when the students go outdoors and there's no mask mandate, but there might be a parent mandate. How would you recommend that the teachers be made aware that little Johnny has to wear his mask so that they can help enforce it, rather than have peer pressure or teacher pressure to have all students take off their masks when outside?
Absolutely. Well, first, Jocelyn, let me say we definitely will continue, and I agree with you, having just one message about testing, because it is so important, not buried with 10 or 15 other important things. We will go ahead and do that. As far as being outdoors, my first recommendation, if a parent wants his or her child to wear a mask outdoors, I strongly recommend notifying the teacher, and I would also copy Ms. DiDiego and Ms. Van Decker, just so it's known in case there is any peer pressure. The teachers will not recommend that children take off their masks, so there'll be no pressure from any staff member. That's for sure, and we'll reinforce that at the opening conference day. But there could be some peer pressure. So that's why I recommend not only the teacher, but the counselors know, because if a child is getting pressured, then I would expect an intervention and to make sure that doesn't occur. We will go over this in our opening faculty meetings, that we want people to pay attention to this, and we don't want any child to feel embarrassed or uncomfortable, because I do believe a number of families would like their children masked outdoors. It may be a smaller percentage that are masked. However, many parents have told us that's their preference. So we will honor that and support it.
I was just going to ask about the quarantining rules and if it differed for vaccinated children in middle school. And with that in mind, there was some confusion about cohorts, especially with middle school, and whether there will be more mixing of classes or not. The indication was there will be, and I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah. So first, if you are vaccinated, Kent, you only need to quarantine if you're symptomatic. And there's a very strong recommendation that if you have an exposure, that you get tested 2 to 3 days after the exposure. So that is something, again, I think it would be on a case by case. When Nurse Melissa and our team goes through that contact tracing process, those are the questions that will be asked. And then if someone is vaccinated, I'm sure right there, Melissa will, alert the parent to make sure you are looking for symptoms. If there are no symptoms, 3 days later, I'm sure we can do a surveillance test. They may choose their pediatrician. So, and then there was another part, cohorts, mixing. Middle school the grade level, I think on all 3 grade levels, there will be many periods during the day where they are together. So we're not going with those 2 separate cohorts. So basically the cohort is a grade level. At the elementary school, the teacher you are with, that is your cohort. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Matt, did you have a question?
I think it's a question. Teachers, I think, on the flip side of not making kids uncomfortable outside, I feel like everybody got lax last spring. I mean, everybody, I don't mean here, I mean like across society. But I noticed kids in particular got more and more sort of lax with their masks indoors. And I was wondering if there will be sort of a concerted effort in the faculty meetings before the school year starts to kind of make that a priority among faculty, that they shouldn't be shy about admonishing kids, especially in the primary grades, to lift the mask up and make sure they're wearing it, because it feels like something that I know as a teacher you can start to feel uncomfortable nagging the kids, but I don't think we, and I'll speak as a teacher for a moment, I think we as teachers need to feel uncomfortable. I feel like that's, if we can make that sort of part of the faculty culture, that especially for the unvaccinated grades, to just sort of stay on them about those masks and be a nuisance to the children when they're inside, because they do slip, especially the 5, 6, and 7-year-olds.
Yeah. Matt, I agree with you. I think people were worn down after a long, stressful year.
And there was more optimism at the time than there is now.
And the positivity rate was 0.03 in June.
Right.
But now we're hovering around 4%. So it has gone up significantly. And, you know, as a teacher, and any teacher knows this, the way you start the year, starting on the right foot and setting that tone is critical. So absolutely, that's on our agenda we have 2 conference days before school begins, and we're going to come out strong and be consistent with it. And the answer is absolutely yes. I couldn't agree with you more.
So the record should show that Matt is in favor of nagging teachers.
As,
Right, let's phrase
as,
that is to say teachers who nag.
I'm going to rephrase that. Teachers with high expectation for positive behavior.
All right. Do we have any other questions on that presentation? Do you have any other notes?
No, just I'll reiterate that we are on track to open school on Thursday, September 9th. We've had a few curveballs thrown at us with construction, which I think happens anytime you're renovating an old building. You remove a ceiling, you find out that there's a sub-ceiling, or there's an original ceiling with paint that's chipping, and those kind of things have come up. Joe and I and Mike Twardy, we worked very closely with our project manager and architect, and the board has been great about approving some change orders, but we've kept this job moving along. And things will go down to the wire, but our teachers are well informed, they are prepared, and they know that they will have clean rooms with the furniture that they need and the teaching materials that they need for that first day of school. So we're excited. Next week on the 1st, I will have both of our architects and our project manager. They will be here to give you a list of everything that was accomplished this summer from the start of the project till now. And then we've made some adjustments to our phase-in plan over the course of the school year. And specifically when we go to second shift, what work will happen in the first part of the school year and then going into the winter and spring months. So that'll be next week. We'll give you more specifics. Joe, do you want to add anything to that?
I think that we are making a lot of progress, and we have moved further along in the building than anticipated. But obviously, being an old building, there are things that come up, and we have to deal with them as they come. So we have a good team of people working with us, and we're making a lot of progress. There's always a mad scramble right before school starts in order to get everything in place, but we'll get there.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to board communications then, if we don't have any other questions. First up, we have the discussion and adoption of the 2021, and I have them here for you, 2022 school board goals. This is what we looked at our board retreat. We reviewed it very close to the end of the retreat, as you will recall. So this is a draft based on that. We can adopt tonight unless anyone has further changes, questions. I'll go through them quickly. Goal 1 is engagement. Plan and execute with excellence, empathy, and equity as guiding principles. Goal 2 is governance, improve board governance structure. Goal 3, administrative collaboration, foster board administrative relations. Goal 4, community relations, develop strong community board relations. Goal 5, finance, evaluate financial practices. There are objectives under each one, which we can review. These are very similar to our goals from last year. The language that was changed was primarily under community relations, goal 4, which was communications previously. And the objective to encourage the community to contribute positively to the district through committee, task force work, and volunteer opportunities, which we are always looking for new volunteers from our community. Finance, we completed the internal audit last year, so that was removed. I'm very excited about that. I've never been so excited about an audit. Never thought I was going to have it. And I simplified Objective B to review the district's long-term finances. Do you have any questions, concerns, suggested changes to these goals for this year? Again, we use these goals to evaluate ourselves throughout the year. We'll do a mid-year evaluation where we'll see how we're doing on our goals, and then we will look at our goals at the end of the year and evaluate them again. Madeline.
I have a question on the,
Oh, grab a mic.
I have a question on the first one. Develop a strategic coherence plan. So is that a continuation of the strategic plan that started last year, right? Is that the intent?
Yes, we're still in the process. All right, this one, the head of our planning committee can probably speak to this better, but we're in the process of developing the strategic plan. We've done one step of that. Is that correct? Jocelyn gave me a thumbs up on that one without needing a microphone. So we are still developing.
Okay.
We could change it to continue to develop, but it sort of looks nice. There we go, that's better. Okay. Then, if I don't have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to move on to the recommended action.
Sarah, if I could just quickly ask, because I know when you sent me the draft, the word excellence in that first goal was highlighted. If there was a comment there about whether that, I think, if I remember correctly, whether that word was going to remain. I just want to make sure I know for editing purposes.
So excellence was added last year,
Yeah, okay.
and I
Leave
couldn't
that.
remove the highlight
Got it, okay.
when I sent you the
I just wanna
draft.
make sure
Sorry
it's
about that.
staying, okay, staying.
Everyone's cool with it? We like excellence?
Okay, excellent. And then,
Great.
under goal 3, the objective B, there was a comment in the draft you had sent about pandemic-related objective, the word pandemic. So I didn't know if
Reading-
that was staying, going.
That was something we discussed again last year as well. I think it still applies. If anyone else, I didn't fully expect to be where we are this year, where we're once again talking about how do we open, can we open, what does that look like? So I think it really does still apply unless anyone objects. Okay?
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Dusty. Okay, so be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby adopts the Board of Education goals for the 2021-2022 school year as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay, next up, and this should be pretty quick, we have our discussion and adoption of board operational guidelines. These guidelines have not changed from last year. Anyone have any questions? Not like working with a Chromebook. Concerns, thoughts? We will strive to end no later than 10 p.m. as listed. Okay. All right, well, then if we don't have any other, we'll give people a second to scan through it, but if we don't have any other questions, comments, or thoughts, or changes to this, go ahead and move towards adoption. Okay? Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby adopts the board operational guidelines for the 2021-2022 school year as presented. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Next, we're going on to item C, which is what we added earlier in the evening. Board committee updates. I'm going to go to Matt first to, can you give him a microphone so he can talk about facilities?
So Carl gave me a great
tour yesterday of everything that's going on, and I think that a good place to start, just building on what Joe and Carl said 5 minutes ago, is, and what you said, Sarah, we're going to open, so that's good. But also, just I'm blown away. I said this to Carl yesterday while we were walking around by how much these folks can get done in a summer. And building on your point, Joe, I think there were major speed bumps, but I think they were actually baked into our expectations. We didn't know specifically what the speed bumps would be. We knew there would be speed bumps. And so when you're in them, they feel intense and stressful and nerve-wracking, but when you pull back to kind of a wide lens view, you're like, right, that's what we budgeted for, both literally and kind of metaphorically. Having said that, I think the work that you both have done, Joe and Carl, it's part of the reason we're able to get past those bumps. So I think we and the community owe you an enormous thank you for the work this summer and helping move things along. It's pretty exciting. When you walk around, there's a lot of messy stuff, but you know, you go through the plans and you realize what each thing is for, and we're right on target to this, through this process that the community voted on. So I was really excited yesterday to just walk around, and thanks again for taking the time out of your day to do it. And we'll hear more details next week, like you said.
Thank you, Matt. And now the other committee that I believe met was the EDI committee.
Yeah, so last week, the newly formed EDI committee met with Carl and as well Matt and Courtney. And we discussed one of the major charges is, you know, broadening the committee to include community members and faculty and administration, et cetera. And we had a very engaged group last year of 16 people, so we're hoping many of them will come back because they've gone through hours and hours of training and personal development. And so we are hoping to have a first full committee meeting, probably the second or third week of school, where we'll take a look at that strategic plan that we all adopted back in May or March. I forget which one, but last spring, to see, you know, how we can adjust and where we should start tackling first as the school year opens. Did I miss anything? Good.
Thank you very much. The other committees have not started meeting again yet, but we will be kicking off soon with planning, audit, finance, and all the other fun ones. Okay. I'm going to keep going now, unless anyone has any questions regarding the committee updates. No? Okay. Next, we have acceptance of minutes. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accept the minutes of the special meeting of July 26, 2021, and the special meeting of July 30th, 2021. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Just a quick note here that these were two special meetings that were called to primarily review change orders. I want to thank the board for being so flexible and for members for coming in quickly so that we could keep the project moving forward. These meetings were key. All right, any questions on the minutes? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. 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 Nays? Abstentions? Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the personnel items. I'm going to read the recommended action first. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of Carl L. Albano, Superintendent, hereby approves the consent agenda for personnel items as presented. Small note here, Dusty, do I need to modify that because we've moved item C?
I'll note it in the minutes.
Thank you very much. Okay, may I have a motion, please? Thank you. Okay. Carl, are there any you wish to speak to on this before we move on?
Just briefly, we have you see a number of substitute teachers. These are per diem subs. They will not be showing up to work every day. As I said earlier in the presentation, we will have 2 certified teacher subs coming to work every day, but the rest of these people will be called on an as-needed basis. We're filling up our sub ranks because we just don't know what kind of year it could be, so we worked hard. I know Allison and Meg, Dusty has helped as well, and we have some quality people. You see some familiar names, people that have worked with us in the past. They've done good work. So at this point, we're feeling very confident that we have a good number of subs to back us up if we need that. The one science teacher correction, that was simply, we appointed a teacher before the GTA contract was settled. We did a one-year extension, so I think there's a 1% difference in that base salary, so we just needed to adjust that. Our coaches, I thank Coach Beckley, Coach Gargaro, and Coach Keegan. They're all three high-level coaches, tons of experience, and they've all done great work for us in the past. So we're excited to have them back running our modified soccer program this fall. And also, I want to welcome Lefty Zagaros. She has a lot of expertise, and we are approving to have her join our facilities committee. She's been involved with our gardening club, is very familiar with the school campus, and dedicates a lot of time. So we're happy to have her join a very active and hardworking committee.
Thank you for the recommendation on that, Matt, and I'm glad to see people are volunteering for committees. Excellent. Anything else?
That's all.
Do we have any questions for Carl on any of the personnel items as presented? Okay. Great. All right, then we're going to go ahead and move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Do you want to grab David's vote real quick, too? We just voted on the personnel. Aye. Okay, great. Nays? Abstentions? Great. Okay, next on to new business. We have approved CSE recommendations. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approve the Committee on Special Education, CSE, and the Committee on Preschool Special Education, CPSE, recommendations and student placements 17528. May I have a motion, please? Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Next, we move on to the big exciting part of this meeting, the establishment of the tax levy, acknowledgement of the tax rates, and insurance of the tax warrant. Okay, I'm going to read the recommended action, but not the box of numbers here. Okay, resolution to confirm tax rolls and authorize tax levy. Whereas the Board of Education was authorized to raise for the current budget of the 2021-2022 school year a sum not to exceed $9,737,463, whereas the Board of Education was further authorized to raise for the 2021-2022 fiscal year a sum not to exceed $300,000 for the Alice Curtis Desmond and Hamilton Fish Library budget. Therefore, be it resolved that the board fix the equalized tax rates by towns and confirm the extension of the taxes as they appear on the following tax roll. And be it hereby directed that the tax warrant of the board duly signed shall be affixed to the above described tax rolls, authorizing the collection of said taxes to begin September 1st, 2021 and end on October 31st, 2021, giving the tax warrant an effective period of 61 days, at the expiration of which time the tax collector shall make an accounting in writing to the board. And be it hereby directed that taxes are payable without penalty through September 30th, 2021. Add a 2% fee from October 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2021. After October 31st, 2021, the list of unpaid taxes will be turned over to the county treasurer to re-levy on the state, county, and town tax bill with penalty and interest added according to law. May I have a motion, please? Thank you. Joe's here. Does anyone have any questions, thoughts, anything you want to add on the tax levy?
Just as a reminder, the library levy is the same amount every year until the library decides that that isn't enough, and then it would need to be voted on again. So that's why it didn't appear on the ballot this time. And these rates are basically what was established in the spring, and then the only difference that comes from it is just the omitted taxes lower the rates slightly. But everything is ready to go, and with the signing of this warrant, we can send out bills that are already printed.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and move to a vote, and then Dusty, you're going to pass around something for everyone to sign, or afterwards?
I do have it right on my desk. So
At the end?
while
Great.
you're reading the next resolution, I'll pass it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor, unless, do we have any questions? No, okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. Great. Next, we will move to the approval of process for board members to attend board meeting via video conferencing. Whereas Public Officers Law Sections 102 and 103 allow for the use of video conferencing for attendance and participation of the members of the Board of Education who are unable to attend the physical meeting, and whereas the physical presence of members of the board at meetings is preferred practice, but it is understood that circumstances may periodically not allow that to occur, and whereas the use of video conferencing will support and foster the ability of members of the Board of Education to participate in board meetings when business, personal, or other reasons prevent them from being physically present for the meetings. And whereas Public Officers Law Section 104 requires adequate notice to the public if video conferencing will be used, the locations of such sites, and the opportunity for the public to attend the meeting at such site. It is hereby resolved that the Board of Education shall permit the use of video conferencing by members of the board when there is a reasonable justification for their inability to be physically present at a meeting of the board. A member of the board who will be absent from a meeting who wishes to utilize video conferencing shall notify the superintendent of schools and board president of that request. If it is determined by the superintendent and board president that video conferencing is reasonable and can be reasonably accomplished, arrangements shall be made and the appropriate public notice shall be issued. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Okay, any questions on the video conferencing?
Just to clarify,
Yes.
if I am the one who is video conferencing, and my location must be made public,
Yes.
anyone can be invited, so can it stay in quarantine? Can it be at my house?
It has to be in an area where the public could attend.
So
At our
outside of
location.
my house?
Yeah.
So I have to be outdoors, for example?
Yes, and I think in that particular situation, we may need additional clarity from the attorneys, but it needs to be in a place publicly where the public could attend at that location if they chose to.
You know, the video conferencing, in theory, you're sitting in an open space with a computer.
Yes.
Video conference. If no one else is there, is there a requirement to like play it out loud, or can you?
Where the board meeting itself is taking place. So for instance, if it were here and one of you were video conferencing in, we would have you up on a screen so that the rest of the public that's attending at this location can see you vote. And then same thing at your location, the board would need to be seen at your end by the public.
But if no one's there,
But if no one's there,
can
no
you
one's
put
there.
that, can you put
Yeah,
headphones
that's
on?
my main question. If no one's there, do I have to like broadcast it?
No. If I could also add, you know, my advice would be, I think this is a good option if someone is traveling out of the state. My recommendation would be if you could find a public place, like a library. It would be better than giving an address. So let's say you're visiting family out of state. I think you probably would maybe not want to give personal information such as an address and have that open to the public. It's unlikely that anyone would ever show up, of course. But my advice would be if you could find a public place, then it would make the most sense.
It would be noticed and your potential in-laws information might be posted in a meeting. So Okay, do we have any other questions? I would ask that if you're planning to do this, if you could send the location by Friday so that it can be included. But if anyone else in the future, just please, the Friday before the meeting, so it goes out to the public in a timely fashion as well. And then Dusty doesn't have to add something later. Okay.
I'm just curious, was this sparked by COVID, or did this exist and we didn't know, and people didn't notice?
I'm not.
No, I was now, I mean, like, the law.
No, the law previously existed. We've used it before. So like, we've had members come from campsites and other public areas. You would see campers in the background.
So it's an old law.
So it's an old law. That's why it doesn't specifically address quarantining. And it's great for people who, especially in summer or for business travel, who have to be away. I do know that and it was covered, like if you're traveling for business in your hotel room, they do require that you like prop the door open or go to the lobby. Lobby's recommended so you don't invite the public into your hotel room. Okay. Good on that. All right, so we're gonna go to, and we also cannot hold meetings remotely anymore due to COVID. That executive order was rescinded, so. Okay, or expired. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. Great. Approval of transportation agreement. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of Carl L. Albano, Superintendent, hereby continues the contract with Orange County Transit LLC at a maximum cost of $619,510 for the 2021-2022 school year. In accordance with the bid specs, in the event of a long-term shutdown of school where transportation is not needed or is needed on a reduced schedule, the district will provide notice in writing at least 10 days in advance of such suspension or cancellation and will pay the required fees during such notice term, even if services are not required. May I have a motion, please? Thank you. Carl or Joe, do you wish to speak to this contract?
Sure, and Joe, you can fill in if you'd like. We used Orange County for the first time last year. They did a nice job. They were the low bidder last year when we went out to bid. This is a renewal for a second year with them. I will say to the board, the owner of the company has reached out and has made some requests, one around potential closure, and if he had to keep his bus drivers on payroll, would the district consider some kind of arrangement? We've had some back and forth, but he hasn't made a formal proposal for us to consider. So I said to him, look, we're going to go ahead and approve you because we certainly want to make sure the transportation contract is in place for the upcoming year. But if there are things that you're requesting, certainly we will consider them and get us a more formal proposal. So I may come back to you. We may have further discussion on transportation, but at least by approving this tonight, we have our transportation set up for the upcoming school year.
Are we anticipating that the bus, it'll be the same as last year, or will it be different? I know, I wasn't around last year for it, but there were different routes and different actions taken to reduce capacity on the buses last year. Or are we doing the same this year?
Oh, as far as COVID protocol, Kent, what we're doing is the disinfecting and all that will continue, but we are requiring masks, and we're planning to have one child per seat, unless there are siblings. Siblings, of course, can sit together. So that is the plan. It gives them about approximately 3 feet of distance. So that is what we're aiming for. It's not a requirement any longer, but that is the goal of the district.
And the routes are still under review, is that correct? We know the number of buses, but the exact stops and drives are still under review per where the students are.
Yes, and in fact, this year, Mike Sammartano is working with Mike Twardy, and a survey is going out, so we want to collect some more information so we really could pinpoint the number of students on the bus, which parents prefer to drop off, and make arrangements accordingly.
4 routes, correct?
This is 4 buses, 4 large.
4 big buses.
Do you anticipate if there are
I'm assuming last year many parents dropped off that didn't previously. If that changes and you have a lot more parents that are opting for the bus, then you have to adjust the distancing on the bus, or you add routes, or how does that? What do you do?
According to Mike Twardy, and he's in a better position to answer this, it's a little difficult. So let's say one bus has more students, the other bus is light on students. Could we shift some stops and balance it? There's some ability to do that, but it's a challenge because the 4 buses tend to go off in all different directions. So you don't want to add too much time to our students' trip, but there is some ability to do that. So again, there'll be a survey maybe tomorrow or Friday when we get that information. Last year, my recollection is about 60% of our parents use the bus, about 40, maybe a little bit more, we're doing drop-offs. So right now we're anticipating something similar, but more parents may opt to use bus transportation this year, and we'll make adjustments accordingly.
We have space on the buses if 100% require transportation, correct?
Yes. And the district also, keep in mind, we do own vans and one large bus. So we have that option as well. Our drivers are also cleaners. They do, wear a few different hats, but we have some flexibility there if need be.
With last year's bids, it increased the cost for this contract. Is there any way to just have a discussion with them to see if there anything that can reduce, maybe not even for next year, but the following years, or things that we can do to reduce this cost or find other alternatives?
Yeah, that's a great question, Madeline. Actually, and Joe maybe knows the specifics, but Mike Twardy reached out to neighboring districts. So in addition to our main transportation, we also have a requirement for private schools within 15 miles. We have a number of students going to district placements. And I think we have 2 partnerships that we formed this year that we didn't have last year. One, I believe, is with Haldane, Joe, and the other?
The other, I'm not sure which
Lakeland,
one. Has to
maybe
go over
Lakeland?
those Storm King, there's one that goes over
Yeah.
there.
So
There's a few.
one private school run, one BOCES run. Each one we're partnering, and we'll be able to split the expense of that bus run, which is good for us. So Mike Twardy has been hard at work at this, and we're going to continue the always looking for efficiencies, places where we can save without, of course, adding to students, within reason. We don't want our students sitting on buses for long periods of time. When it's reasonable and when it makes sense, we're going to look for that partnership.
There are a lot of pressures on the transportation companies, both with fuel and the ability to get drivers. So we don't anticipate that there's a lot of things in the future that are going to reduce transportation costs, because as we can see, if you've been reading the news as of late, there's a lot of struggling to get bus drivers. So there is upward pressure on cost. So that is always going to be a challenge, and especially when you have a lot of bus drivers are older, retired folks that are doing this. They're ones that are at risk for the virus. So it's difficult to get drivers. So there is some uphill work there.
Cost is in line with neighboring districts and our relative districts, right?
We put it out to bid last year. So
Yes.
this was the lowest
This was the-
responsible of the 3 that came back willing to do it.
Yep.
And if we wish to really significantly look at it again, we would need to go out to bid again. That's correct.
Yes. Yeah.
And there is a cost associated with it, I believe.
Any other questions on the transportation agreement? It does include our high school runs as well, correct? Great. Okay. All in favor of approving the transportation agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Great. Okay, we're going to move on to approval of cleaning services agreement. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the agreement dated August 25th, 2021 with Reliable Cleaning Systems for janitorial services for the 2021-2022 school year and further authorizes the superintendent to execute said agreement. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Carl and Joe, do you want to speak to this one a little bit?
Yeah, I can. So we did anticipate that we would have to adhere to the same kind of cleanliness protocols in this school year as we did in the last school year. And what we wanted to do, and we did in the spring, is we did bid this out to get a competitive price for this work. This is the firm that won that bid. Now we're just formalizing that into a formal contract, which is essentially the terms of the bid specifications, as well as their response to that bid is the basic form of the contract. And this is for 1 year to provide all the cleaning that needs to be done to keep the building safe and open. Because our staff is focused on doing that during the day, we need additional help in the evening. And we are pursuing FEMA funding to try to recoup some of this cost as well.
Anyone have any questions regarding the cleaning contract? I had one. Would part of the grants, I forget what they're called, not the FEMA ones, but the the CARES and the other one, would this kind of 1 year contract qualify for that?
It could, but if the FEMA grant is available, which is not available for other things, we think it's better to go that route. So we, for the ARP funding, that's the last grant application that we have to do, because it requires some additional feedback from all the stakeholders. We did request an extension to file that, and the normal filing date would be the end of August, but with what was going on in the school this summer, it really wasn't conducive to doing that collaboration, so we will be applying for that probably within the next month.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the cleaning services agreement?
So with the construction,
Grab the mic thing.
so with the construction going on during the school year, the construction crew is going to work after hours. So typically, this cleaning services would just do the typical cleaning. Are they doing additional cleaning to make sure that everything is ready for the next day this year? So are we, I guess the question is, are we buying additional cleaning services because of the construction this year that then we would typically?
I would say that the cleaning services aren't necessarily related to construction, because the construction areas are typically set aside for construction until they're ready to be turned over. So this is maintaining the cleanliness of the active parts of the building that are going to be in use the next day. So it's maintaining the sanitizing and cleaning of the occupiable spaces.
And just to elaborate a bit more, Madeline, so after hours, we do have one custodian of our staff that works here, and his wing is the middle school wing. So we do a deep clean, disinfecting every desktop, high-touch surface areas, doorknobs. So the cleaning service was tackling all of the elementary school. So the rest of our custodial team, they're on the day shift, and they're doing that work throughout the day. You know, in the morning, bathrooms are getting hit multiple times a day. Then after lunch, all the desks, we keep in mind the children are going to continue for one more year eating in the classroom. So after they eat lunch, their desks are cleaned down. So that's why we have the majority of our people on days only. And this is basically 2 people, I think, 2 hours a day after school. But it's enough to really put us at ease that when the children arrive the next morning, their desks have been thoroughly cleaned and it's safe.
I probably should have asked this back during the COVID presentation, but I think it's corollary to Madeline's question about the construction. Does the vaccination push / potential mandate for staff and faculty apply to the construction people? Are they considered staff in the building this year?
Good question. It does not. But the good news, Matt, is that they will only show up, and we're thinking right now 3:30. We haven't established that as a firm time. We could, for example, say 4 p.m., but we do want to maximize that after school hours. But by 3:30, we'll be confident that our students are out. They will have, a very specific guidelines, what entrance they can go in, and the rooms they are in are rooms that are locked down during the school day, so no students, no staff even will be in those rooms. So they'll go directly to those rooms, they'll work, they'll leave in probably 9:30, maybe or 10 p.m. I think that's their shift. But we cannot enforce a vaccination requirement at this time, but I am checking that with legal counsel. And if there's something out of New York State that requires, everyone who's working in a school, even contractors, then we will certainly enforce that, because I would like to. Even though they're after hours, I would like to see a vaccination requirement for them as well.
And they use separate bathrooms as well.
They have porta potties.
So they do not interact with
Yeah.
children's spaces.
Yeah, they will not be allowed in school bathrooms. They'll have to, it's a little bit of an inconvenience, but again, it's safer, especially with COVID.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the cleaning agreement? Okay. We're going to go ahead and move to a vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. Great. Approval of physical therapy services, Exceptional Horizons Physical Therapy. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of Carl L. Albano, Superintendent, hereby approves the contract between the Garrison Union Free School District and Exceptional Horizons Physical Therapy, PLLC, for the provision of physical therapy services for the 2021-2022 school year as presented to the board at this meeting. May I have a motion, please? Thank you. Any questions? Do you want
What
to
are the
add
services
anything?
that we're talking about?
David, this is physical therapy services as per children's IEPs. So if it's mandated on an IEP, we offer it. Now, it's minimal. There aren't that many students that receive physical therapy. So it doesn't make sense for us to have a full-time physical therapist. It's much more cost-effective to partner. They've been with us for a number of years. They do very good work. It's a consistent physical therapist who's very experienced, who comes to the school to provide the service. I believe it's 1 or 2 days per week. And they're keeping their rates the same, which we appreciate.
Are we tabling this one? Or is this separate?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to table the next one, so I'm going to, oh, sorry, yes, sorry, I got ahead of myself with the physical therapy. Any other questions on physical therapy? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions, great, okay. Next up on item G, we're going to table this. Do I need to take a vote on that? Make a motion? Okay, I'm going to make a motion. Do I need to read? Help me with the language, please, Dusty. I'd like to.
You don't have to read the whole resolution.
I'd like to make a motion to table the request for approval of settlement agreement. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. Thank you. Okay. Next, we are moving on to public comment. Does not look like anyone's stuck with us at this point. So I'm not going to bother reading the public comment section, if that's all right. Okay. Next, we are going to move on to board member comment and other discussion. Jocelyn, do you have any comments?
No comment.
Thank you. David, do you have any comments?
I have sort of two unrelated ones.
Can you hand
Oh,
David
I'm
a
sorry.
microphone, please? Thank you.
I was a little taken aback by the information that you provided earlier, that only 50%, at least before the summer, of the eligible kids for vaccine have been, in fact, vaccinated. And I wonder if there's any point in our talking about ways to incentivize the unvaccinated eligible kids to become vaccinated. I'm just throwing that out as something to think about.
Sure. David, I will tell you, this has come up with my superintendent's groups. One idea that they had was making testing mandatory, or vaccination or testing for sports, for athletes. But no one has, they just actually did a survey. No one has officially taken that stance yet. I think they're more focused on staff and being more flexible with students. The other thing is, you may recall, the FDA now has approved Pfizer. Moderna, we think, is close, maybe within weeks. So I think that's part of it as well, waiting on FDA approval. And again, as I said earlier, the Department of Health. So I think we can encourage and maybe try to come up with other ways to incentivize. Sports is always it's a good carrot for motivated athletes, but for all the students, not all of them are participating in sports. So we'll continue to, I know everyone is trying to come up with ways, because again, vaccination that really is the way out of this.
The other is this, it's, so we've all been watching this nightmarish catastrophe in Afghanistan, and I've spoken to some folks in our community who are interested in the idea of welcoming Afghani refugees to the Garrison community, to bringing folks in. I don't know what the resettlement plans are for many of these people. I know a lot of them are stuck in places like Qatar. But it also occurred to me that West Point might be motivated to want to bring some folks to this area. But so the question for here is whether we want to consider, as a school board, or as the Garrison Union Free School, making some kind of statement embracing the idea of welcoming these people who have gone through this nightmare in Afghanistan, who are going through it right now.
We can discuss.
You said we can or cannot?
We can, because this is board member comment and other discussion. So, ask for the mic.
It sounds like what you're saying is maybe like, we have a resolution that we've passed making this like a welcoming and inclusive environment. So it sounds like you're suggesting maybe having some type of resolution that the board might get behind that is welcome and inclusive to refugee families or otherwise.
Sorry, so we can or cannot?
Wait,
We
sorry.
can't, yes. No,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's other, yeah, just.
10 yes, right?
Got it.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry about the mask.
Right. That's what it sounds like, something that you would maybe say in writing where we can just affirm that.
My question, I've seen.
Grab a microphone, please.
I've seen that they're now going to Washington DC, Texas, other areas. I haven't seen any plans particularly for New York. So if there is a plan, like is there a solid plan that, hey, there's 5 families that are going to come to the area, then I can definitely see that happening. I've been looking for something. I haven't seen anything for New York yet.
There are relief organizations that are bringing families to different areas.
So we can request, are they making a request? West Point's making a request, or we are making a request, the community's making a request?
think we're doing exactly what you don't want us to do, right? Which is have a conversation about this. Maybe we can figure out a way to. have
We
a
can,
conversation.
this is a discussion, we could put this on an agenda for further discussion at another time, whether it's amending the language to our current, whatchamacallit, sorry, I'm losing my words here. Resolution that is posted on our website. I think what you're looking for is something a little bit more active than the language of the resolution, perhaps. And that might take more groundwork as we get open to see what are the possibilities within the community at openness. My recommendation would be to start looking for, as a school board, not outside the community, but are we hearing anything from, as we have reps, like I'm the rep for O'Neill, are we hearing anything from their community? Are hearing anything from Haldane? NISBA, are they saying anything? And be open to that. But beyond that, I'm not sure how much authority we have to physically move people to Garrison.
Are there actions that
Microphone, sorry.
could we encourage school organizations like the PTA and student groups to take a more active role in raising funds or taking other actions that may be educational and compassionate that the students could work on to support this cause? That would be a question I would have. Because I agree, Sarah, I don't know. I feel like I don't know if it's the school board's role to place a family in Garrison. I'm supportive of it, but I don't try. I guess my biggest question is how do you get to that point, right? I feel like we're still far away.
There's a lot of components, a rescue
Yeah.
organization.
So what could the school do to take action, either from a parent-teacher organization or just students themselves promoting compassion and things that they could actually take action on and execute rather than just express, sympathy?
Yeah, our student government organization certainly can get behind a charity that supports, helping Afghanistan refugees. As a school district, if someone were to take in a family, the children would be allowed to go to school here. So if they, and I even heard Airbnb, I think people were offering, their homes or vacation homes or whatever it may be, and there apparently are many people offering, living quarters. So if anyone moved here within our district, if there were children, they would be welcome here in the Garrison schools. So I think, as a district, that's, I think, what we would offer. And you're right. I think, the PTA, the student government, if they decided to get behind a cause and do a fundraiser and raise awareness and things like that, that would be a really positive thing for them to do. So I'm sure once they settle in, they'll be looking for things, and I think this is a great cause for them to get behind. It's certainly very important right now.
Okay. So if you do have further specific thoughts on something for like a discussion down the road, just send me an email and we can look at adding it to a future agenda as well for a in-depth follow-up conversation. Matt?
Very cautious in our role as the board in terms of interjecting at all with the faculty and what they're doing. But if they organically are doing anything on the teacher-student side that they then want sort of larger community or institutional support for, I think that would be a way for us to, we're very open to that, I think, as a board, just based on the consensus that's being expressed.
Okay. Madeline, you're up next. Thank you, Madeline. No comment? Okay, Courtney's not here. Ken?
Nothing.
Okay. Matt?
Nothing that we haven't said over the course of the meeting.
Okay. My turn. I'll just add one quick thing in response actually to the vaccine comment, reminding everyone that it was really towards the end of the year when the 12-year-old and up were allowed to get vaccinated. So it might not be that they're not vaccinated, but that information hasn't made its way to Nurse Melissa, which would be our only data point, and that has to be volunteered at this point. It's not required by New York State that they are vaccinated at this point. So they would have to volunteer that information, correct?
That is correct.
So we can't mandate they may even tell us.
Yeah, okay.
But
We can ask.
we can ask, but just be mindful that some of them may have gotten vaccinated just right at the end of school, and I'm sure that was a very chaotic time for families and Nurse Melissa, who is our fountain of information on all of this, so.
Just have one quick question. You mentioned, obviously, the Pfizer has gained full authorization, but is it gained authorization for 12 to 18, or is that just 18 and above?
I thought it was 18 and above.
I believe it was 18 and above. So it's still not FDA approved. Yeah. So, you know, in my judgment, and it's hard to predict, you know, schools are able to mandate many different vaccines, as you all know, as parents. But for the COVID vaccine, I think we're at least a year away. I don't see that happening this year. Adults is a different story. I think adult staff members working in schools, we may see that soon, but with the kids, it's at least a year away.
What is allowed, I'm sorry, Matt.
I think it was 16 and above for Pfizer.
Oh.
I think you're correct, because that was the original, it was originally, I don't know.
Here's a computer right here. It's like actual technology.
One final comment I'd like to share.
Well, Matt has the microphone, so let Matt go and then you get your final comment.
I don't know if anyone has the answer to this. It's a legal question. I know the private schools have mandated student vaccinations, and I was just curious what allows private schools to do it without the full. Are they just because they're private organizations and you're there voluntarily?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes, yeah.
You're mandated to be here.
Yeah. And Madeline is correct, 16 and older.
So I ran into Ray O'Rourke today, and he said, I go by the school every day, and Albano's been there every single day. Says, that is so impressive.
Yeah.
Well, that's not, actually, we did take a family vacation, David. So we had a wonderful vacation, early August, but hopefully I see Ray soon.
I will add that anytime that Carl was not in the building, Joe stepped up and even called a board meeting, was really on top of everything. So it was wonderful to have another administrator willing to jump into that position, especially while the building was being torn apart.
Yeah.
And your knowledge, having both of you gone through these projects, is so key to this. That shined through this summer so much, is that because you've done this before, we have not. I mean, Madeline, you've been through other projects, but just somebody who's gone through the budgeting process for schools, who understands when to use contingency, when not to, this has been amazing. So it'd be nice if Ray came to a board meeting. I mean, doesn't he miss us? Nobody plays golf at 7 o'clock at night. This is the place to be.
I'll convey it.
Tell him I'd love to see him at a board meeting, just for fun. Well, on that positive note about how exciting these meetings are, unless we have any further comment or discussion, again, please, if there are specific topics you want, send them over and we'll look to add them. But I think we're going to have a very busy fall. We're going to have a presentation calendar coming soon, so we'll look at what the faculty and staff has to share with us. It's going to be really exciting. We're all good? All right, we're going to move on to adjournment. Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby adjourns the regular meeting of August 25th, 2021. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions. Okay,